I sat in the corner booth of Giovanni's on East Colfax, twirling spaghetti that tasted like cardboard while my coworkers sang Happy Birthday completely off-key. 28 years old and still picking the cheapest pasta on the menu because Parmesan cost extra. 18 years of double shifts at the small CPA firm downtown. Living paycheck to paycheck in a studio in Aurora with a leaking ceiling. Drowning in student loans from the community college I never finished. All while a $250,000 trust fund with my name sat untouched in my mother's account. The door chimed. Jonathan Kane walked in, my father. The man who'd lived in Hong Kong for the past decade, sending polite emails and birthday cards with Hong Kong dollars tucked inside. Salt and pepper hair. Suit that cost more than I made in 6 months. Those same hazel eyes I inherited locking onto mine. My stomach dropped like the floor had vanished. Olivia, he said softly, setting a small navy box between us like a live grenade. Happy birthday, sweetheart. Susan, my mother, went rigid beside me. Her fork clattered. Greg, my stepfather, shifted uncomfortably. Taylor, my stepsister, froze mid-Instagram story. The entire fractured family we pretended worked suddenly felt like a house of glass about to shatter. Jonathan pulled up a chair directly across from me. The restaurant noise faded. My coworkers mumbled excuses and vanished within minutes. It was just us. Olivia. I have to ask, Jonathan said. Voice low and deliberate. The trust fund, the $250,000 your grandparents and I set up when you were 10, how exactly has it helped you these past 10 years? The words refused to land. Trust fund. $250,000. My mouth opened. But nothing came out. I turned to Susan. Her face had gone the color of old paper. What trust fund? I whispered. Jonathan's expression moved from curiosity to confusion to something colder. He slid his phone across the table. The screen showed an account opened January 2007. My name as beneficiary. Susan Kane, now Morrison, listed as custodian. Balance history that made my reality feel obscene. Regular withdrawals labeled education, travel, housing, none of which had ever been mine. Susan's mouth opened and closed. It's not what it looks like. We were protecting you. You were so young. So impulsive. I was working 2 jobs at 16, my voice rose. Cracking. I turned down the partial scholarship to University of Colorado Boulder because you said we couldn't afford living expenses. I've been sleeping on a secondhand futon for years while Taylor. Don't drag me into this, Taylor snapped. But her eyes darted to Susan. Posted photos from Milan. From Paris. From that semester in Sydney. That was my money. Wasn't it? The pieces clicked with sickening clarity. My future. My education. My chance at not living like this funneled into Taylor's Instagram perfect life. The silence that followed was absolute. Other diners stared openly. I didn't care. 28 years old, and I had just learned every late bill. Every skipped meal. Every night I cried in my car after double shifts had been completely unnecessary. A lie. We're family, Susan said desperately. Family sacrifices for each other. Family doesn't steal. I stood so fast the chair scraped. Family doesn't watch someone destroy themselves while hiding $250,000 that belongs to them. I looked at Jonathan, this near stranger who had just lit the fuse, and said, "Thank you for telling me." Then I walked out into the Denver rain, leaving my birthday cake, my mother's excuses, and the last of my blind trust behind. The drive home through rain-slicked streets was a blur of memories suddenly sharpened into knives. At 10, Jonathan took the job in Hong Kong. Susan called it proof he loved money more than us. Divorce was swift. She got the house in the Denver suburbs, primary custody, and control of my future. Within a year, she married Greg. a contractor whose big projects always failed. He brought Taylor blonde, demanding, always needing more space, more things. My bedroom became Taylor's because she needed natural light for studying. I moved to the basement. When it flooded, I spent months on the living room couch while Taylor FaceTimed friends from my old room with the window seat. Money's tight became Susan's mantra. Greg's flips kept collapsing. I learned not to ask for new shoes until the soles flapped. I learned to say I wasn't hungry when Taylor ordered takeout. I learned that family sacrifice meant I sacrificed so Taylor could thrive. At 16, I bagged groceries until my feet went numb. Susan said it built character. All the money went into the family account. I never saw a dime. Yet Taylor's Cancun spring break was fully funded. Senior year, I earned early admission and partial scholarship to CU Boulder. Susan sat me down with Greg's tax returns, spreadsheets of debt, and said, "We just can't swing living expenses. Honey, community college first." Later never came. I dropped out after 2 years when Greg's latest project tanked. Taylor went to a private college in California, cash paid. No loans visible. Taylor studied abroad in Milan. Posted Eiffel Tower selfies. Sipped wine at cafes I only knew from movies. When I asked how they afforded it, Susan said Taylor's grandmother left her money. Taylor's grandmother still lives in Fort Collins. I moved out at 25, scraping together rent for the Aurora studio. Susan cried that I was abandoning them. Watching Taylor live the life I should have had while I aged in dog years from exhaustion became unbearable. The next morning, Jonathan waited in my building lobby with coffee and a thick folder. We sat in my tiny studio while he laid out the evidence: original trust documents, bank statements, forged receipts for Berkeley-level tuition that never happened, emails supposedly from me asking him to respect my boundaries, fake graduation photos, actually Taylor's. The private investigator's report showed every dollar traced to Greg's failing businesses. Taylor's trips. The Audi in the driveway. We confronted Susan together. She produced her own folder of excuses. It was for the family. If Greg's projects had succeeded, we all would have benefited. Jonathan's voice was ice. You invested my daughter's education in your husband's failed schemes. Taylor appeared, shock flickering before defensiveness. Greg looked blindsided too. I want every penny back, I said. Plus 18 years of interest. Susan laughed bitterly. That money is gone. Jonathan, then you'd better find a way. Tomorrow we file for fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. The color drained from her face. Rebecca Lawson's office on the 18th floor of a downtown high-rise smelled of fresh coffee and ruthless confidence. Mid-30s. Sharp eyes. Handshake like a contract. She reviewed the documents and called it one of the clearest custodial breaches she'd ever seen. Criminal prosecution plus civil suit for breach of fiduciary duty and conversion. Both paths simultaneously. I gathered more evidence using the house key Susan had insisted I keep for emergencies. While she made tea and rambled about forgiveness, I photographed the unlocked filing cabinet in Greg's office, handwritten ledger tracking every withdrawal, $1, 200 Taylor Milan wardrobe, $9, 500 Greg Denver flip deposit, $7, 000 Taylor Wellness Retreat Aspen. Password notebook revealed the fake email account she used to deceive Jonathan. Rebecca filed. Process server delivered the lawsuit on a Thursday. By afternoon, my phone exploded with family calls. How could you sue your own mother? Ungrateful. I forwarded everything to Rebecca. First settlement meeting. Rebecca demanded $250,000 principal plus 7% compound interest, total $340,000, plus $100,000 damages for emotional distress and lost opportunity. Susan's lawyer sputtered. They claimed inability to pay. Rebecca, full payment in 90 days or criminal charges proceed. Identity theft and forgery carried serious prison exposure. Susan tried everything, midnight visits begging through my door, flowers with guilt trip cards, staging a collapse at my old grocery job. Each incident documented. Taylor posted a tearful Instagram video painting me as greedy for suing after being taken in. Jonathan countered publicly with the forged emails and bank records. The tide turned. Coworkers posted proof of my double shifts and struggle. Second meeting, they offered $300,000. Rebecca held firm. Mark, Greg, finally exploded. Just pay her. Susan. I'm not going to prison for your lies. He revealed he'd been recording her admissions. Taylor admitted she'd suspected something was wrong when her tuition was paid in cash. They capitulated. Full restitution plus $60,000 interest within 90 days. House sale. Car return. Retirement liquidation. I would recommend probation only if every penny arrived on time. 3 weeks later, Rebecca called. Susan had hired a new attorney and was moving money to offshore accounts while filing a motion claiming the trust was invalid on technicalities. Countersuit accused me of abandonment and demanded $200,000 for room and board plus emotional distress. Emergency asset freeze. Forensic accountant uncovered 3 hidden accounts plus additional fraud, claiming me as dependent years after I moved out, $15,000 tax refunds. Credit cards in my name maxed out. Intercepted scholarship check, $5,000. Social Security survivor benefits after grandparents' death, $30,000. Total judgment climbed to $410,000. Judge Harrison was merciless. In 23 years on the bench, I have rarely seen such an egregious breach. Immediate liquidation ordered. 7-day deadline or custody. Susan's new lawyer withdrew. Contempt charges for attempting to access frozen accounts. Final hearing, packed courtroom. Forensic accountant presented every withdrawal. Every forged document. Additional evidence of tax evasion. Judge ordered full $410,000 from house sale, closed at $875,000. Restraining order. Criminal referral. Susan collapsed sobbing, not remorse. Self-pity. 48 hours later the wire hit, $410,000. I took my first real sick day in years. Sat in the studio that no longer fit me. Jonathan called. Your body doesn't know how to feel safe yet. Give it time. I moved to a proper 1-bedroom in Washington Park. Bought a rail bed. Enrolled in evening classes to finish my accounting degree. Started a small scholarship fund for victims of family financial abuse. Spoke to law students about the case. Family collapsed completely. Greg filed for divorce. Taylor moved to California with her mother and entered therapy. Susan moved to Arizona with her sister, the only relative still speaking to her. 18 months later, the IRS arrested her for tax fraud. The prison letter came through Rebecca. Everything I did was because I loved you. I was protecting you from mistakes. Someday you'll understand. I forgive you. Mom. I read it twice. Then shredded it. She still didn't get it. The money sits in my account. But the real wealth is the freedom to choose. To dream. To trust my own judgment again. The girl who accepted crumbs because family told her that's all she deserved is gone. In her place is a woman who fought the person she trusted most and won not just the money, but the right to her own life. Family isn't an excuse for theft. And sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to let them destroy you.